Hey everyone, welcome to Spirit Talk. Just give it a couple minutes here, or a minute for people to enter the room, and we'll get started.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, hey. Good to see you all.
Okay, happy first Friday. Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Spirit Talk episode. This is Reverend Ginny Brown and Scout Bartlett, and I'm Christopher Mitchell. We get together on the first Friday of every month to explore different spiritual and metaphysical topics in depth. Scout is a clairsentient psychic, Ginny's a clairvoyant psychic counselor, and I do astrology stuff and ask questions. So also, I'm going to add into the chat box links to donate to the program, links to everyone's websites, and to how you can find us on Facebook and YouTube. So today we're going to be talking about karma and reincarnation as themes of conversation. We touched on some of these in an introductory way last time when we did our School of Earth episode. So if you didn't catch that, check out our YouTube channel, and we laid some groundwork in there that can be interesting if you are getting into this topic. But we're going to go a little deeper into specifically karma and reincarnation today. So to that end, I think these are big topics, and I don't think we're going to be able to comprehensively cover it all in an hour. But let's start by introducing the concepts a little bit and just laying out a starting point. Scout, would you like to begin by giving us your take on karma and reincarnation as an introduction?
I love the whole notion of might not be able to comprehensively cover this in an hour. Well said. Yeah. All right. So I want to start off with an easy part. The fact that my particular reality system includes the notion that God invented recycling and doesn't throw anything away, including us. I have a ton of experiences that lead me into a state of conviction, not even belief, but a state of conviction that multiple lifetimes and or reincarnation is an absolute. It just is. But truthfully, I borrow from one guy that I studied with, a man named Leonard Orr that I studied with for a while. And Leonard's comment was, I choose to believe in ongoing presence or life beyond death. He says, I choose to believe in it for two reasons. One, it improves the quality of my life now if I think I'm part of a continuum and that what I'm doing is moving forward. And if indeed I'm right about there being life beyond death and then reincarnation, if I believe that and work from that premise, then I'll be on track. And my second reason to believe it is that if I'm wrong and there's nothing after life, well, then I'll never know I was wrong anyway. And so that one works for me. Now, I personally, like I said, I've had a tremendous number of experiences that give me an absolute conviction of the ongoingness of our consciousness beyond the completion of our life and the ongoingness of our learning and our lessons. But I do want to toss in one piece. My particular view of karma, I have noticed that karma has gotten a lot of descriptions as if it is a punitive factor or a corrective factor. And I don't believe that karma is either punitive or corrective. I believe that karma is simply a name for a larger cosmic concept that each of us as individual souls or essences, whatever word you're comfortable with, but the karma is a larger process, cosmic process that each of us as individual souls, we took on our share of the twistedness that is separateness. We took on our share of the lessons that come from separateness. And karma is just the description for keeping score of what we've solved in that curriculum and which tests we haven't yet passed. It's not punitive. It really is just a matter of, yep, haven't figured that one out yet. And sometimes the ways that we try to figure it out, well, they pull the knot a little tighter rather than untangling the knot. And that's where people got the notion that if you screw it up, it'll come back and bite you in the cosmic behind. So go from there, Ginny.
That's a great place to segue. Yeah, the master law that Scout's referring to, karma is really about the law of cause and effect. And that's in the Hermetic principles, that every effect has its cause, every cause has its effect. And so when we talk about that, a lot of people do look at it as punitive, as Scout was talking about. But it's just what is. If you turn on the stove, it gets hot. There's the cause. You turned it on, it gets hot is the effect. And the same as, kind of looking at the law of cause and effect, it really has to do with events. It's not creation. We don't get to create. That's where I think a lot of people get this really confused, is that cause and effect isn't creation. Like if you think about your parents got together, communed, and they had you, but they didn't create you. They were the vessel. Them communing was the effect, or the cause to you coming into the planet, but they did not create you. And so cause and effect has to do with events here on the planet, and so does karma, because what we're understanding through our karma is the effect of our will and the effect of our action. And that's not meant to be negative. Like the universe is neutral. God is neutral to you. It just sees it as what is, just what is. You turn on the stove, it gets hot. You punch someone in the face, you might get punched back. Like it is just what comes and what goes. There is no negative side of karma. But religions typically put a lot of morality onto things so that we move, ideally, so we move in a nice direction universally. But it's not, that's just a kind of a clouding or a film that gets put over it. It's actually very neutral. Whatever you put out, you get back. And so you get to decide as a creator of your reality, not of an actual incident. You're only a creator of your reality. So if you put out something negative, your karma is going to be that you live in a negative world. That's going to be the karma of it, or the cause and effect of it. You don't get to put out a lot of negative energy and live in a positive world. It won't work that way. And so it really kind of boils down to that. And I think it does segue into a really big topic of fate and destiny, what the differences between fate and destiny, but I'll save that. And just to say that reincarnation is an opportunity for us to come in and do over blindly. The whole premise of that is so that we don't know what our karma is. We don't know why we feel inclined to be really nice to this person, or why we're so attracted to this situation, or why we feel called to leadership, or whatever the situation is. It is karmically tied to you. Like it is a part of something that you're evolving through. It's just the reincarnation pattern is an opportunity for us to, evolve, but from a place of being innocent, and like really letting our intuitive self guide us through that process. Chris?
I know that you, Ginny, you have a saying I've heard from you a couple times that's really interesting, where you've said that all karma is in present time. Is that right? All karma is now.
All karma is now, yeah.
And I think that's an interesting place to go with this conversation, because another one of the preconceptions that comes with karma, the kind of consistently repeated theme, is like, if you're suffering in this life right now, today, if you get hit by a car or something, you can say, oh, that just had to happen because 3 lives ago I hit someone with a car, right? Mm-hmm. So there's this idea of the karmic piggy bank or something where you, and that, like you said, it does get into free will and fate a little bit. And so basically my question is, are we just sort of subject to the long-term taxes of everything that's come before, or in this present moment, do we have choice to create entirely fresh, no matter what has happened in the past? Is it waiting to be resolved, or do we have full choice now?
Yeah, it's like our willingness to it's honestly, it's about our willingness to receive it. For instance, I'll speak to karma in a really light way. A friend dear friend of mine, is just a helper, helps everybody all the time. And then this last year, when we all kind of were going through a lot, or most of us were, right, in some form or fashion, she was in the position of receiving all of this karma that she had been building up for so many years. And it wasn't that it wasn't always there for her. Like, the good nature of being someone who is a helper or a giver is that usually people are giving right back to you, whether it's like thank you, like a heartfelt thank you or gratitude or whatever. But she was closed off to receiving that. And so in this year where a lot of businesses and people were crippled by this, pandemic and whatnot, she had to open herself up, and she's been in receiving mode like crazy. And that's come in the form of illness, and money, and in so many ways for her. But it's all been an opportunity for her to receive. And I told her, I was like, you're getting, like, your karmic sandbags dropped off, like they're just coming in waves, because this is what you're meant to be experiencing. And so that's where I see like a karmic buildup happen, but it's always happening in real time. Like, if I, to speak to it to a negative, because it's a little bit more of how we're programmed. If I wake up and decide that I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, right? I'm already controlling my day just by that notion. And then I get up and I stub my toe. And then I get into traffic and someone cuts me off. And it starts to build. My karma from just the intention that we set in the beginning of the day is acting out for me. And so our karma is instant. If I throw energy at someone, something is going to throw it right back at me, and vice versa, good or bad. And so there's a real way to be conscious. And I think that is the biggest thing in between fate and destiny, to me, is consciousness. Fate is where people are being affected by the world that they're in. They're affected by the news. They're affected by other people's emotions. They're affected by the weather. It's all happening to them. Fate is delivering them their karma. And so it's a way that it kind of lacks a little bit of consciousness around their free will. Like, you can turn off the radio, you can turn off the news, you can choose to tune in or out. You can train your empathy and clairsentience, right, to not take on other people's stuff. And destiny, to me, is where we're acting from a higher level of consciousness and a higher state of consciousness, where it's like, I recognize that I got out of bed with this notion that it was the wrong side of the bed and I was in a bad mood. I'm controlling my destiny. I'm controlling the state of my day. I'm controlling my attitude. And so that's a big difference. And to me, it represents a level of consciousness where people are coming out of what's called samsara, right? And those are kind of like what people talk about in the wheels of karma. It's just kind of the really kind of intense survival mode, like eye for an eye world, and into a higher state of consciousness. It says, like, how am I a part of the world that I see? And I'll pass it to Scout. Sorry, it was a little long-winded.
It was your turn this month.
Oh, okay, good.
I have along the way, nope, restart. Try that again. How I experience my world when I'm in my intuitive aspect is I experience everything as patterns of energy and patterns of energy flow. But when I work with clients, the thing that I'm doing under the surface, the etheric engineering part of my work with clients, is that I'm working in the patterns of energy where they're tangled in the client, so that we can untangle the tangles so that their energy flows clear. And when the energy flows clear, everything mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual is all part of the same stuff. So mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, it's all the same thing, just perceived from different angles. The same way that my shirt has a visual aspect, it's got a tactile aspect. And so I perceive everything as energy, and everything as patterns of energy and patterns of energy flow. Now, some while back, if I'd known it was going to be important, I would have noticed the date, but I didn't. I was taken into a vision where what I saw was all of us as fragments of an original wholeness, and that original wholeness came across a scramble of energy threads that was not in alignment with anything. So the original wholeness is pure and aligned at a single frequency and in a single alignment, like energy threads. And it came across a pool of randomly scrambled energy threads. And in the Christian biblical, it says God looked out and said, "Let there be light," which didn't mean sunglasses. It meant let it be that this random scramble get drawn into alignment and elevated in frequency to match the original wholeness, so that we can bring that scrambled energy into the wholeness and God grows. And that each one of us volunteered to fragment out, to go incarnate, to match energy with the scramble. That sounds like breakfast, but to match energy with that scrambled pile of threads, to match energy so that we could work with that scrambled pile to untangle them and bring them elevated and into alignment with the wholeness. So we effectively, we depart out of the wholeness, God, and take on as a small fragment, and we take on a bigger clump of random energy, and then we bring that bigger clump into alignment and elevate its frequency till we reach atonement at 1 min, till we reach atonement. And so we rejoin God, we leave God as a small fragment, we rejoin God as a big clump, and God grows. Karma is, my best analogy for this that I've come up with so far is like a whole bunch of grandkids get together and they're going through grandma's estate, and they discover that grandma loved gold chains, cheap jewelry, fine jewelry. She loved gold chains, but when she'd get them tangled up in a knot, she would just throw them all in a baggie, where over the course of time, they've really knotted interconnectedly. And all the grandkids are at the table, and one of them dumps out this huge baggie of gold chains and says, "Okay, this is part of our inheritance. We have to divide it up equally, but first we've got to untangle it." And each of us reaches into the pile and takes our handful of knotted gold chains and says, "Okay, this is my part of the project. I'll work with these till I get them unknotted." Now, if you've ever, tried to unknot fine gold chains, you've noticed that sometimes you think you've got it and you pull on that loop that's going to make them, and then instead of untangling the knot, it pulled the knot tighter. And other times you pull on a loop and it actually takes it out of the knot, and the knot got less stuff in the knot. Karma is simply the word for our fistful of gold chains. And some lifetimes we think we've got one piece of that curriculum. Maybe it's dealing with the concepts and fear of death. But sometimes we step into life and we took on the particularly hard part, extreme conditions. We choose a lifetime. I'm going to take on this part of my clump of gold chains this time because I've been working with it for a while and haven't made much progress. So let me try it from this angle. So sometimes we'll take on adverse conditions as being the loop we're going to pull on to see if that'll untangle the tangle. Sometimes we take on a life of ease and we see if that'll be the knot that'll untie the tangle. Sometimes maybe we get born to a crooked father that's got billions of dollars and funds us so that we never think we're bad at anything, and we think we're a genius, and then we get publicly exposed for every aspect of our geniusness. And that's the angle that we came out at. This particular lifetime, I'm getting to do a whole lot with grieving and the experience of other people dying, while at the same time feeling my body grieve, while I'm still in connection to know that they're not actually gone dead, they're just not in bodies. Part of my deal is understanding grieving this lifetime for whatever God-forsaken or God-blessed reason. That was the part of my curriculum I took on. So we try stuff from different angles. And so at one time in a separate vision, my turn to go long, in a separate vision, what I got was the monk who originally was trying to illustrate karma, saying, so if you killed them in another lifetime, you may have to come back till they kill you back so it's evened up. What he really meant to say was that if in one lifetime you were dealing with the tangle in your knot that put you in a place where you thought killing somebody solved your problem, that may have pulled that knot about death and dying tighter rather than untangled it. So you may end up having to rework the idea of death and dying from, well, one time you tried it from you being the one that made somebody dead. So you may have to try it with somebody else making you dead when they're angry. And you may have to try it with somebody making you dead when they're grieving. And you may have to try it with you making yourself dead over a very long period of time by smoking. We're just pulling on that knot, in this case, death and dying. We're pulling on it from lots of different angles till we get that loop untangled. So what it really is, all the different scenarios, is us just trying the knot from a different angle. So all of what karma is how much of my knot of gold chains have I still got left, and which part of that have I chosen as this lifetime's curriculum? That's what all that vision was, and that's what I've been like exploring and figuring out for a while now. But that's how karma looks to me. Group project, we took on our share of grandma's knotted gold chains, and we've been working on it since, but it's a group project. All of our other co-grandkids are also working on their pile of knotted parts. And sometimes their knotted parts, you know, they pull on the loop and it pulled our knot tighter. Not out of punitiveness, but just like sometimes we don't notice the, all right, bluntly put, all of us have a core essence that's perfect, but then we've got our stuff in the way that is our lessons, that is these knots in the chains. So sometimes we don't notice that we've got stuff in the way until we run smack into somebody that puts it up in our face. Oh man, that pushed my buttons. Wow, that's all mine. That was a whole lot. Yeah, that's enough.
It's great. It leads
Oh,
right
Chris.
into, hey, Scout. So I'm going to take that actually and loop it right into, we've got a question coming up in the chat box here from Rachel. And I think that this is a great segue. So she's asking about how do we account for people who are taking advantage of others, or people who've built a structure to gain power, people who are using money badly, people who are born into poor conditions, etc. And given what you were just sharing, Scout, I'm guessing the answer would be something like, let's say there's an overall theme of exploration that a soul is choosing to explore concepts of power management, energy, empathy, etc. In one lifetime, it might manifest and explore through being a Wall Street shark, unempathetic, you know, just dealing with having a lot of money or something. In another lifetime, it might come in as someone disadvantaged and seemingly victimized by those other people in that other position. And through taking both perspectives, it learns something about the concept as a whole, and we can all evolve together through that. Is that a good way to think of that?
Actually, I'm loving Daphne's question. I would vote for Daphne's theory. Let's just give grandma back her gold chains. And it doesn't work that way because we already volunteered to take that part of the project, but it's a great theory.
Well, if, you know, when it's a choice to take on that kind of karma or karma in that way, if you like to leave things undone, then yes. You know, if you're avoiding kind of bringing something to karmic completion because you fear punishment, then yes, you may have to come in and walk a mile in the other person's shoes. But it's completely a choice. And a lot of times it's just fear that gets in our way. We're afraid of what the consequence is going to be if we face this part of our shadow, or if we untangle this knot, you know. But really, with the insight around really understanding that we can, you know, this body is just this vessel for this, you know, 100 years, really, you know, it's an opportunity to kind of bring things to completion. If you really are brave and courageous and look at like, hey, I know I've got open-ended karma here with this person, or I know I've misused power, or I know I've misused my empathy, then it kind of gives you an opportunity to let things close, you know. So you don't have to live lives of the extreme. And, you know, honestly, there's nothing wrong. It doesn't mean that someone was born into negative karma or that they have negative karma because they're in a survival situation when they come into the planet. You know, that's actually, you know, Chris, you might want to speak to this. Like in astrology, the people with the most complicated charts are fascinating, you know, with a lot of squares or T-squares and complications in their energy. It gives you depth. And so it's not something to fear, you know, it's something to color your experience. It's giving you texture. And so the easy road doesn't, you know, really mean anything at all in that regard.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, it doesn't always make sense to the human perspective, or the collective human perspective of like, well, why would someone choose that, you know? But what's so cool about astrology, and I can look at charts and every single one of them is different, but it lays out the logic of soul in a way. And you can see it there with, I use the Pluto placement to see what the major soul theme is, or the nodes of the moon to look at the same energy. And, you know, it can say right there, oh, this person is learning about choice making and survival and independence, or this other person is learning about value systems and having or not having material energy. And from the point of view of soul, like, even though from our point of view it might seem like it's not fun or something, from the point of view of soul, it's a great learning opportunity to see what happens when these conditions are set up this way, and what does the individual do with them. And yeah, so astrology is a great tool in that way, because you look at a chart and everything is validated. Nothing's accidental, nothing's a punishment. It's right there on the paper. We all have a particular theme of exploration that's designed perfectly for us. And we can make the most of it, and we can all find joy and fulfillment with what our design and our imprint is. It's not that some people come in with the ability to be happy and others come in just short shrifted or something. It's like we can all do something and all have a positive experience of the karma that we carry.
Beautifully said.
Anywhere that either you want to take that for the next 3 minutes before we hit the midpoint meditation? Scout's turn.
I like to point out that we chose our parents and we chose our astrological structure, time, date. We chose our geography, in other words, our cultural surroundings, and we chose all of them specifically so that they would screw us up in the exact ways we need to be screwed up for us to work through the portion of our pile of grandma's chains. Sorry, Daphne, can't give them back. But we choose them to screw us up in the exact ways we need to be screwed up, so that we will end up running smack into the parts of our karmic curriculum that we've chosen for this lifetime to be the fragment that we're going to be working on. It's all there in the package. But in addition to that, everything is energy. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, everything is energy. It's all energy. But if you wanted to do a summary commentary, almost all of life is choices and magnetics. If we've got a particular knot, K-N-O-T, knot, if we've got a particular tangle in our energy field, we're going to magnetize people with the complementary tangle. You know, just like if you ever had the two little Scotty dogs with the magnets, if the magnets were pointed in the right direction, it magnetized the other Scotty dog. If the magnets were pointed in the other direction, it pushed the other Scotty dog away. Or I may have just dated myself horribly. But if we have a particular knot in our energy field, it's going to attract people that have the complement to that knot that fits. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll attract matching knots so that we get to see what it looks like in somebody else, but we'll always be magnetizing the complement to that knot. I had one dear friend of mine, and because her dating life had been weird, she'd actually made a personal rule that she would never date a man that she met in the same way as a previous man that had been a disaster. And so by the time I met her, her field of, you know, she'd already ruled out bars, clubs, social gatherings, church, you know, all of those were already ruled out. And so during the time I met her, she met men in very interesting and unusual ways, like solo hiking in the middle of Big Sur, and she meets this guy who's solo biking. But the thing that was fascinating about her was, prior to knowing her, I had in my lifetime only met one pathological liar. And this was before we had any that were famous in public. But I had only personally met one pathological liar before her. During the period where she and I lived in the same town, she dated 3. That's not random. And it's not because she liked dating pathological liars. It pretty much upset her every time, but it turned out I understood why she, you know, wouldn't date a guy she'd met the same way. Magnetism, it's all, you know, everything flows with magnetism. So if we're seeing a whole bunch of stuff in our life repeatedly, what we're seeing is that we've got a knot in our energy that's activated at the moment. It's buzzing, it's vibrating. And so it's magnetizing lots of examples of the match or the complement to that particular knot. So it's kind of a, ooh, I need to go take a look at that part of me that's creating that particular magnetism. And I finished right on time. Yay me.
That's right. All right, take it from there, Ginny. So at the midpoint of Spirit Talk, right at the 12:30 mark, we like to do a 5-minute meditation to ground the energy and come together. And we switch back and forth between Ginny and Scout. This month, it's Ginny's turn, so she's going to lead us in a quick meditation.
Excellent. All right, everybody, just go ahead and Let's just settle into your chair and let your eyes close. And together as one group, let's take a nice big deep breath in and exhale. And say hello to yourself by saying your full name to yourself a few times. And listen for the way that you answer back. Maybe it's in the form of a feeling, a voice, or a knowing. And I invite you to create a picture that sums up your day thus far. And notice what you were creating. Was it conscious and deliberate? And then let that picture go. And then turn your eyes to the moments ahead. The rest of the day, the evening, and into the night. And ask yourself, what attitude would best support me? Maybe the day calls for a high vibration, for you to enter with enthusiasm, playfulness, or optimism. Or maybe the day calls for something dense, like efficiency, determination, or leadership. Or maybe an energy that sits in the middle, like open-mindedness, going with the flow, or compassion. Find the right attitude and make a gentle commitment. So if you lose it, you can return to it. Or if you need to change it, you may. And then release that picture. And call your attention back to the room that you're in. And when you're ready, open your eyes and end your meditation. You guys look so beautiful when you meditate, I must say. That's an example of how to become a conscious creator in charge of your destiny. Feel free to revisit that whenever you need.
There's a couple pieces I like to mention about meditation, because I get people that will come to me and say, Scout, I've tried meditation and I can't do it. And it's kind of the same as, gee, I went to the gym and I lifted the weights twice and I didn't get any muscles. The gym doesn't work for me. We get a picture that in our ability to meditate, that what we would do is we would be able to go in, blank our mind, and have our mind be clear or empty for an hour and then come back again. And that is a successful meditation, that anything other than that means that we didn't learn how to do it yet. Meditation is really about two key elements. One is choosing an uplifting experience, whether you're a visually based person, whether you're an auditorily based person, whether you're a kinesthetically movement based person, choosing an uplifting concept and then simply committing to it, that over a period of time, if you're going to meditate for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, that over that period of time, you're going to be willing to notice when your thoughts have been taken off your chosen focus and release that distraction and come back to focus. Notice you went off, release, come back. Notice you went off, release, come back. Notice you went off, release, come back. Faster than I can even say it. It's about, if you wanted to score points on a successful meditation, you could get a point for every time you noticed you wandered off, and that you were able to let go of that wander off thought, interrupt it, and come back to chosen focus. Point, interrupt, come back. Point, interrupt, come back. Point. And so I've actually carried my meditation practice. I tend to be kinesthetic, sensory, body based. I tend to be sentient based, body based. I choose to move into that physical state of meditative state every time I would otherwise be waiting. Whether I'm in line to make a purchase in places where you can do that, whether I'm on the phone because my call is important to them and they'll be with me in an hour, whether it's I'm waiting for my web page to boot, I'm waiting for my computer to boot, I'm waiting for my coffee to brew, whatever. I choose to drop into that meditative state every time I would otherwise be waiting. Let me come back to my center with an expanded state of my energy field, with my energy field expanded all the way around me, through everything around me, just like radio stations. We're all on our own frequency. Every time I would otherwise be waiting. So I maybe get 10 seconds, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes of meditation multiple times through my day, until that's actually become my subconscious habit. That as soon as I'm waiting, I notice myself shift into that peaceful state of meditation, as opposed to, I used to have let's call it an irritated engineer brain running. And when I was waiting, I would be looking for all of the efficiencies that that place or those people could have put in place so that I wouldn't be waiting. They could have made it more efficient. How long is this? As if it made a difference. And what I find is, dropping into my meditative state anytime I would have otherwise been doing my waiting practice, let's do my centered, peaceful practice instead. I get in all of that meditation during my waiting time, but also it turns out that waiting goes quicker because everything is magnetic. If I'm moving into a peaceful, aligned state, everything around me is being drawn toward, not that it's required to, not that they have to, not that it's my job, but everything around me is being drawn toward that aligned state. And quite frankly, things get more efficient when people are actually coming into their center and they're less distracted. So it's this amazing game of magnetics. And if I don't like what I'm magnetizing, my role is to change my state, because I truly, this is a phrase that showed up in another body of work I do called the Acceleration Series. It's an 11 session treatment to pop out inner limitations that you weren't aware of. But one of the key pieces that came up would be turning everybody else's life over to them, honoring them, that they're on their life path, and that all of their choices and all of their outcomes are them unfolding their life path, even if those choices looked like they were based on me, or something I did or didn't do, or something I thought or didn't think, or something I wanted or didn't want, or something I participated in or didn't participate in. Turning it all over to them, that I honor that they're all on their life path, all of their choices and all of their outcomes are their essence unfolding their lessons through their life path. Because then I can also honor that all of my choices and all of my outcomes have been me unfolding my lessons through my life path, my essence unfolding my lessons through my life path that brought me here now, making the realizations I'm making now.
That's super interesting, Scout. It kind of touches to what Carol was talking about in the chat. She mentioned, like, how do we demagnetize? And like, when I think about that, like, it really kind of comes into play around, like, understanding that our subconscious is always creating a situation to wake itself up, to wake us up. You know, it's driving a lot of the experiences that we're magnetized to, so that we don't get derailed. You know, and so the first thing to do is to become conscious of it, that in whatever way you are magnetizing it, I am attracting this into my life, right? So my question to myself is like why am I calling this in, or what is calling this?
With no blame, and sorry to interrupt, but you said it before, with no blame. It's not what's wrong with me that I'm drawing this in, any more than, you know, it was a funny thing. There was a point in time when I had hair, and then I didn't. And I sort of was attached to my hair, and I thought my hair was an attractive feature. And it was stunning to me when I got to the point where I realized that I had to either wear the monk fringe or shave my head. I shaved my head, and suddenly that drew a completely different flow of attention to me. I didn't know that was going to happen. Not negative, not well, positive, but in the way of, it's not like ooh, how did that? It's just like, cool. This is a part of my reality. Let me move forward. Sorry, Ginny, you were right on a roll, and I just got in the.
No, it's great, Scout. It speaks to it. You know, I think asking, you interrupted me in a perfect place, because the question why is a troublemaker. You know, why is the sky blue? Why did this happen? Why? You're never going to find an answer to a why that actually is satiating. But what? Like, what is attracting this to me? How is this getting attracted to me? How am I attracting this? Those are questions that you can solve. So I actually really appreciate that interruption, because it clarifies and helps to kind of get you in the driver's seat more.
Why did I draw that interruption to me?
Yeah, exactly. It was perfect. I can see exactly why, to be a better teacher around how to get you guys to see the consciousness of it, right? And then once you understand the what or how, you learn from it and you reset. Ask yourself if you need more of this, you know, and your subconscious will correct your ego if you're wrong. If you need more medicine, it's going to call it in. And from there, you move on.
I would even expand the word you learn from it, as in, you untangle that knot. If every time that knot shows up, rather than gripping around it, you go to a state of peacefulness inside of you to see if you can't find a place where you can release the clench of that knotedness. You know, when you get whacked right in the knots, as it were, if you can release the clench of that knotedness, over time, that pulls the threads out of the knot till the knot falls apart.
Yeah, the resistance makes it way more painful.
Is the goal to become entirely unknotted and entirely without any magnetics? Is that the Buddha state, the Jesus state, etc.?
Let me jump in on that one real quick, if I can.
Everyone wants to. People like this question. Okay, cool.
What'd you say, Ginny? I missed it.
Go ahead, Scout.
The huge spiritual multi-lifetime overview goal, or the group soul overview goal, if you're a Seth person, or all the other theories that go together with it, because they all work, is indeed to untangle all of the knots till you've actually brought all of that energy aligned and true, elevated in frequency, and you've rejoined that original wholeness. In any given lifetime, to use the word goal is a weird word here, unfortunately, because it has wrong implications to it, and it is the right word to use, but it has wrong subtext. In any given lifetime, the path is the path of flow. The good news is, guys, you can't not get there. Eventually, we get the whole thing untangled, And there we are back into alignment, and we are atonement at 1 minute, rejoining the original wholeness. You can't not get there, and you can't get there late, because there is no time in that place. And so you get there when you get there, which is the exactly perfect time to get there, because there is no time. You have all the time in the world, which is a joke, because the world only exists to give us time. And once we've solved the whole grandma's gold chain thing, Earth won't exist as a three-dimensional reality, which is a whole nother conversation about the fact that we're in an energetic shift at a moment, which is scrambling everything in the world. But there's a real place where every time we get our buttons pushed, if our goal is not the goal of acting out the button, if our goal is the goal of, wow, that just triggered me, let me find my way back to my sense of heart, my sense of love, my sense of alignment, my sense of clarity, whatever word for you. For me, it's heart. Let me find my way back to my heart and respond to this from my heart rather than from the reflex created by the knot. Every time we come back to heart and respond from heart, psychologically, that's one more pre-trained thought loop that has a new out in it, so that the marble doesn't go around and around and around the loop. Now there's a new out path to where it can pop back out, and we're not stuck in the loop of it. If you've ever tried to have the conversation with a friend who's mad at their job or mad at their spouse, you know they're in a loop. You'll just hear the replay till they finally get themselves out of it, but that's all you're going to hear till they pop out. Psychologically, every time we come back to heart rather than the pre-played knot and the prepaid loop, we're pulling threads out of that tightness so that we get part of our aliveness back. Energetically, every time that we bring ourselves out of the reflex, we're pulling one more thread out of that knot until the knot falls apart, and then we can interact. The real goal is refinding our center in the midst of circumstances, or as they say, unconditionally refinding our center, or building our ability to return to a state of flow or a state of love. Love is simply the word for how we experience ourselves when our energy and our aliveness is flowing. The whole goal is unconditionally being able to return to our center. So Jesus had the description, the Jesus teachings had the description of coming back to your love of them. And remember that it's not them against you, it's you and your love and how you respond. The Buddhists kind of went the other route to get over the fact that it's going to be painful and go groove on life. Well, not how they phrase it, but get over the fact that it's going to be painful and go groove on life, even though it's going to be painful. Just don't worry about the painfulness. Just come back to grooving on it rather than fixating on the painfulness. And then there's other interesting belief systems. The spaghetti people have a whole nother belief, but the pastafarians. But it's really about, can we learn to step out of the reflex and come back to our core and interact from our core? Can we learn to step out of the reflex and come back to our heart and interact from our heart? Which, by the way, does not imply be a doormat. It just implies come back to my heart and then communicate from what's really real.
We can only kind of operate from the level of consciousness that we're in. And the School of Earth altogether is designed so that we learn through those layers of consciousness. And so I don't know that I wouldn't look at it as a goal, as Scout said. Like, that's just not, it's not going to be helpful to you to feel like you're behind or you've got more to learn. You're going to start to feel like karma is bad, which is one of the hugest lessons about Earth is like letting go of right and wrong, or like letting go of the heavy polarization and learning how to be in the energy of it oneness. And
which
so
is why we're here right now, is because now we're doing the master's level quiz on polarization at the moment.
For sure, because like what extends from the mind, it's still in it. Like whatever you're experiencing, it's because it's what you're working through. There is no right or wrong to it. And like when you look at the themes of Earth are constant. They've always been here. The theme of survival, the theme of sex, the theme of emotion, the theme of power, the theme of race, the theme of love, the theme of communication, of spirituality. These are all, we've never lived without them, not on this planet. So to kind of look at these things for like resolution point, yes, like we should be working towards like a state of peacefulness and a state of love. But, these themes are going to be constant for us, just on another level. And
This
it's
is the school of separateness. I mean, we come into four-dimensional space to study separateness and to study stuff responding slowly to our intent.
Mhm. Well said.
So if I went to the tech school, I shouldn't be surprised that my classes keep talking about tech. If I went to the art school and I get frustrated when I'm trying to do art, I shouldn't be surprised that the art school keeps throwing me art to do.
This is where if you look at mythology or the archetypes from astrology or something like that, you can see these themes painted across time because they're just constants of the human consciousness. One of the many things I geek out on over astrology is like 12 houses, 12 areas of exploration. I think it's right there in a circle. Lots of thoughts, everything fits in there. Like it's not that it's just 12 things, but anyhow. I wanted to speak to Louise's question real quick before we wrap up here. She was asking if we can speak, and we did a little bit right here, but I want to go in a little more deeply, is can you speak to how we're attracting and magnetizing collectively? I take that to mean, how are we working through karma collectively? And the place I want to go with this, and then I'll give it over to Ginny and Scott before we wrap up, is that first of all, we're working through everything together. Everything helps everything. As a teacher I like named Matt Kahn says, everything helps everything, or it all works together. Also, everything's reflective, um, in the same way that a cell is part of a hand, which is part of a body. We are part of a nation, which is part of a world. So with questions like, how are we have a karma, we're working through, we can see it on the big screen of the world. Right now, we're working through polarity in the collective consciousness around politics and belief systems. I think the interesting and helpful place to take that is to ask, where is the polarity within my internal government? Where is the division and polarity within the different parts of myself? Where is there a conservative part in my head and a progressive part in my head, and how are they talking to each other? Because I think that what's happening within ourselves is reflective of the world that we find ourselves in on the broader level. So by working with yourself and with those voices and parts within yourself to be more environmentally friendly, to be more compassionate and understanding to others, to be more bipartisan within your own consciousness, I think that's how we work on our individual karma. And as all of us work on our individual karma in that regard, I think the collective knots get untangled as well. Janine, Scout, do you two vibe with that?
I thought that was great, Chris. We have, when we're kind of coming in as a generation, each generation is kind of undoing bits and pieces. It's kind of like a relay race. We're just passing the baton on and on and on. And we just kind of get back in the relay race after we rest for a little while and, come back into body and pick up, where our great grandchildren are leaving off and so forth and so on. But I find that there's kind of like a bigger theme that we come into, and Chris, jump in with me here. Astrologically, isn't that Pluto, like how we're evolving together?
Yeah, that's right. It's one of the main indicators. There's other things I would look to, but Pluto is the current empowerment journey on a whole. I would also look at the North Node as showing the growth point to that end.
To the individual, right? But the isn't Pluto specific to generations?
Well, collectively as well, we have a transiting Pluto. I see what you're saying. Because Pluto takes 12 years to move through a sign.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, humans do incarnate in these chunks. These 12 years, they're coming in with a Sagittarius signature. The next 12 years, they're coming in with a Capricorn signature. So there are continually unfolding generations of new, different work being done. Was that what you were asking?
Mm-hmm. It's, the collective conscious, as far as karma goes, is evolving these same ideas, the same themes that I spoke to just a few minutes ago around survival, sex, equality, power. Like we're just continuing and continuing and continuing to evolve those things. And so different things spike at different times. And so whatever, especially like a seed that is brewing in the subconscious, it's going to permeate. Our thoughts are creative. Our thoughts are where our free will resides. That's the only place we have total free will. So if in our mind we're thinking about inequality, 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 and or recognizing our privilege or lack thereof or whatever, it's going to manifest in these big bold ways for us, for us to work on collectively. Because sometimes an individual person can make a small donation. Some individuals make really big splashes, but when we all move together, we make a really big one. And so sometimes themes like that need more of our participation. So we'll have, a world war, we'll have riots, we'll have, a major injustice or something like that to wake us up and call us to action. And our subconscious says, yes, that doesn't sit well with me, regardless of what side of that you're on.
Yeah, and I was in the middle of host brain stuff, getting ready to wrap up, so I didn't fully receive your question when you asked it, but I see where you were taking it now. And yeah, the cool thing about astrology is it's continually unfolding. Today, the sun is square the nodes. Tomorrow, Mars might be activated. The moon's always moving. Everything's always coming into new configurations. So individually and collectively, we're always working through this. I've heard scouts say in a workshop before, it's like a clock, and it is. It's this big, constantly moving clock, and there's always a different set of energies to be worked on individually and collectively. And like I said, we're all going through that together, and everything helps everything. So as we work on how those energies come up in our individual lives, the collective also gradually works out the same themes. It's a big group project, and we're all bringing our own individual flavor and style to it, and the group project is getting done through our individual input. And that brings us to time. So I get the last word this time, and I'm going to post links to everyone's website and to Spirit Talks Facebook page and Spirit Talks YouTube page in the comments here, and give Ginny and Scout a chance to tell you what they've got going on and how you can find them.
I'm Reverend Ginny Brown. You can find me on my website listed right there at the bottom. I do individual, couple, family work, and teach a daily meditation donation-based every morning, 8 a.m. Monday through Friday and 9 a.m. on the weekends. Coming up next weekend, I'm going to be teaching a feng shui life map class to bring intention into what you're creating for the next year. And so sign up for my newsletter. You'll get more information about that. It's a beautiful co-creation I do with Jamie Leeper, who's an acupuncturist here in San Francisco. It's a lot of fun, very creative, and works. So maybe I'll see you there. Scout?
I do a radio show that broadcasts every Monday and Wednesday in the Bay Area, but it also streams live. But at the same time, we archive it up on our website, the ifidknownthen.com, or the shortcut is just notscott.com. That's my donation to the community. This is my birthday month, by the way, so happy my birthday month to everybody. And to celebrate my birthday month, I've actually been doing little mini workshops, teaching techniques in every single radio show, not just talking about interesting stuff. So go in and find those in the archives. I do work with individual clients. We are getting ready to beta test some me teaching online in Zoom. But one tiny piece to tie back in, sorry about your last word, Chris. We're actually not only working on our individual energetic pattern, we're actually elevating the energetic pattern of this entire reality system. The last time we transitioned an energy pattern, we transitioned it from being an energy pattern of Atlantis to being the energy pattern of Earth. This time we're transitioning the energy pattern of Earth to be whatever we'll call it next. We're in the midst of that transition, and that's a result and a reflection of every time we're moving the energy forward in us, we're actually elevating not just us, but we're elevating the whole energy frequency of this particular schoolroom. So I hope I get to hear from you. I hope I talk to you individually. I'm always glad to have new clients, and just make sure you find us again next month. The first Friday of every month, have a psychic for lunch.
That's right. And we'll be back for the next First Friday on April 2nd, not April Fool's Day. So you can believe everything we say. It won't be any
Maybe.
foolery there. But yeah,
Maybe.
thanks for coming, everyone. Maybe. Thanks for coming, everyone. We love doing this, and it's a blast for all of us. So we appreciate you coming, and hope to see you next month. Take care.